So the game I'm playing today is called Golf on Mars. This is a procedurally generated golfing game that seeks to answer a truly vexing question that the world's leading scientists have pondered for centuries. Is there golf on Mars? Well, I guess judging by this game's existence, the answer to that would technically be yes, but in all seriousness though, this is a very simplistic golfing game that came out on Steam just last week. The objective of this game is that, well, there is no real objective. As I've stated previously, all of the holes in this game are procedurally generated, which means they were not handcrafted, they were created by an algorithm. And while the game is technically supposed to be infinitely long, it actually isn't. There is a finite amount of holes in Golf on Mars. However, getting to the final hole of the game will require a lot of time and patience, as there is apparently a grand total of 25,770,000,000 holes. So in other words, technically not infinite, but it may as well be. Now, if you're a longtime viewer of my channel and you're seeing this game for the very first time, you may be thinking to yourself that this looks very similar to a game that I covered previously on the channel called Desert Golfing. Well, that's because this game is supposed to be a follow-up to Desert Golfing. It was developed by the same person, Justin Smith, and this game was initially released not too long ago. Much like Desert Golfing before it, Golf on Mars originally came out for mobile devices before making its way to PC. This game originally came out on iOS and Android sometime last month, and it was finally ported to PC earlier this month. Unlike Desert Golfing, which took like, 3 whole years before it finally came to PC? But yes, if any of you remember the double feature video that I did on Freeways and Desert Golfing back in 2018, then yeah, this game is going to look extremely familiar to you, and there is a very good reason for that. Golf on Mars follows the exact same premise as Desert Golfing. You are golfing across an endless desert, except the difference here is that you're doing it on Mars this time. The gameplay is not that much different from Desert Golfing, although I do think the gravity has been adjusted very slightly. Because if you know anything about the planets in our solar system, then you're probably well aware by now that Mars has much weaker gravity than Earth does, so it makes sense that the ball would be a little more floaty in this game. The randomly generated terrain that you can find in Golf on Mars is a lot weirder than it is in Desert Golfing. For instance, it is entirely possible for the game to generate some truly bizarre-looking terrain that might as well be caves, because that's basically what they are, and unlike Desert Golfing, the terrain is not as angular anymore. A lot of the hills that were generated in that game had a tendency to be very sharp and jagged, and it kind of made the terrain look a little bit ugly, admittedly, but in Golf on Mars, a lot of those sharp, jagged edges have been smoothened out a little bit. So for instance, in this hole right here, you have a lot of like smooth hills, except for the one on the right side over there. But for the most part, a lot of the terrain is a lot more smooth now. Now, just like Desert Golfing, the game does remember which hole you last left off on, and as you can see, I've been playing the game a fair amount off-screen. I already have a total of 314 strokes, and I'm currently on hole number 116. The game does keep track of your score and which hole you are currently on. Something that does make this game different from Desert Golfing, however, is the fact that you can kind of just ignore the holes altogether now, because there was a mechanic in Desert Golfing that pretty much prevented you from trying to skip over holes. If you were to shoot the ball right off the screen, it would just respawn at the tee location. Or in other words, that little gray panel that you see underneath the ball right here, it would respawn at that area. However, if you shoot the ball off screen in this game, the camera will actually continue following the ball, and at no point does it try to stop you from skipping over the hole altogether. So it kinda seems like the game doesn't really care all too much anymore about whether or not you actually clear holes, which I do find a little bit strange, but it does seem to incentivize just exploring the very weird procedurally generated landscape a lot more, since Desert Golfing didn't really allow you to do that in the first place. Something else that makes Golf on Mars different from Desert Golfing is that we have an actual options menu now. One of the major gripes that I had with Desert Golfing is the fact that you couldn't mess around with any options, but that issue has been rectified here in Golf on Mars. So there is a full screen mode that you can enable, which is self-explanatory. I'm not entirely sure what reverse spin does, but I believe it has something to do with your ball, or it affects your ball in some way. One-click aim basically makes it a lot easier to actually aim your ball and fire it. Aiming your ball in this game works the exact same way as it does in desert golfing. You can just click on any location on the screen, but you have to left-click and hold, and then what you have to do is that while you're left-clicking and holding, you pull back on your cursor in order to give your ball more power. And then finally, you let go of left-click, and your ball will just go flying. Enabling one-click aim means you don't have to hold down left-click. You can just left-click once, and the power bar will remain on the screen, and then you left-click again in order to release it. Muting is self-explanatory, it just mutes the game. You also have the option to zoom out in this game, which I don't think desert golfing had. You can see the terrain a little bit more when you do that. You can also hide your score. Of course, as with every other golfing game in existence, you're trying to get the lowest score possible. Also, the apparent goal of Golf on Mars is to try and complete the game in less than 77 billion strokes, because according to the game's developer, the entirety of Mars is a par 3 course. Or I guess all of the holes on Mars are par 3 courses, I should say. I'm not entirely sure what restart does, though. I don't know if that, like, restarts the game from the very beginning, like from hole 1. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't really feel like messing around with this, just in case that is what it does. And then save and exit is self-explanatory. Like I said, it remembers the last hole that you completed, which is not unlike desert golfing. Right, so now that I've explained everything you need to know about desert golfing before I actually get to playing the game, how's about we freaking play it finally? So just like in the original, you left-click and hold in order to apply power to your ball. Again, you can click anywhere on the screen. If you pull back more, you can apply even more power to your ball, and then release left-click, and your ball will start flying. I really hope okay, yeah, I did hit it over the hill. Okay, that's good. That's very good then. There we go, just get knocked into that structure. Yeah, by the way, this little gray structure right here, I think those are also brand new as well, because I don't believe desert golfing had any of these weird gray structures right here. Those are actually solid, they're not just part of the background, and you do need to hit your ball over them in order to progress with the hole. They are basically obstacles that you need to overcome if you want to continue on with the game here, which is exactly what I am going to try to do. So, gonna try and see if I can hit it over this hill right here. There we go. There we go, just bounce right on in. Gotta make sure not to hit it too hard, otherwise it will just bounce right over the hole, which is obviously not what I want. So as you can see here, now that I'm properly demonstrating it, yeah, Golf on Mars is not too much different from desert golfing. It's basically the same gameplay, but yeah, you can see how the camera is starting to follow the ball around as it edges closer to the screen. So your ball no longer respawns when you fly right off the screen, it just keeps following. And like I said, you can just ignore the holes altogether. If you just want to go straight up exploring Mars here, you absolutely can. Just hit your ball like multiple times over and over again and just completely ignore the holes. You can do that if you want. At the same time though, I feel like there's very little incentive to actually play the game correctly now, due to the fact that, yeah, it just kind of lets you wander off. Oh god. Well, not like I want to wander off, but that's what's going to end up happening anyway. Okay, well at least there's a little hill right here that's preventing me from going anywhere, but yeah, I kind of feel that at least with desert golfing, there was some actual incentive to try and complete the holes, like play the game the way it was meant to be played, but since you can just kind of go anywhere you want now, I don't feel like there is as much incentive anymore to actually try and play the game correctly, but still, I've always been a firm believer in the idea that people should just be allowed to play video games the way they want to play them, so honestly, I'm not mad about it at all, but if I am being honest with you, it does get very annoying after a while to constantly be trying to hit the ball into the hole and just missing every single time, and then going down a freaking slope that you can't actually see because it's hidden off screen. But here we go, this should be good this time. Should not have taken me 6 strokes to get that correct, but there we go. What are you gonna do, I guess? But that's kind of the thing about Golf on Mars and its predecessor Desert Golfing. There really is no concept of difficulty in either of these games, due to the fact that all of the levels are procedurally generated, so sometimes you'll have situations where you do have very difficult courses, but other times the courses may be as straightforward as just hitting the ball over a flat plane, and you just gotta hope that you hit the ball hard enough so that it just rolls into the hole in just one stroke. Well, there we go. We're gonna get to hole number 120. There we go. Three strokes. Not bad. Because these are all par 3, apparently. Justin Smith, for those of you who don't know, was also the developer of Freeways, which, like I mentioned before, I also covered in the same double feature video in which I also showed off desert golfing. He's arguably best known, however, for developing EnviroBear 2000, which I also did a video on quite some time ago, and its follow-up, EnviroBear 2010, which, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I have kind of been thinking about doing a video on recently. I'm not sure if EnviroBear 2010 is meant to be like a commercial version of EnviroBear 2000, since it was originally a freeware game. Okay, that's absolutely fantastic. There we go. Hit the ball right into a ditch. This is gonna end very well. Okay, there we are. Just hit it straight up. Oh my god, it's gonna go back in, isn't it? No, it didn't clear the hill entirely. That was my downfall right there. Oh god. Well, I can't hit it like that. Okay, there we go. Well, I gave it some spin at least. There we go. Stop from rolling down the hill. Oh my god. Yeah, by the way, I believe it is actually possible to go back to holes you've already completed, if I'm not mistaken. You know, if you just want to go back and explore everything that you've already cleared, for whatever reason, you can do that if you want. I would not recommend it, though, because, my god, you can just, like, straight up destroy all of your progress in this game, but then again, I guess the game kind of lets you do that already. So here's actually another feature that desert golfing doesn't have: clouds. From time to time, you will see some gorgeous little clouds that appear in the sky, and yes, your ball can actually fly through them. I wasn't actually aware they could fly through them, though. Like, I didn't realize it left behind a little trail. That's completely new to me, because I didn't try that out off screen. But yes, I believe even the clouds are randomly generated. Those just appear from time to time. Because desert golfing had a very strange absence of clouds. Okay, I think I hit that way too hard, yeah. We also had another little wall that we had to hit the ball over. Like I said, all of those gray structures are solid objects that you need to actually clear completely. Like, you need to hit your ball over that. There we are. Judging by one of the in-game screenshots that I saw on this game's itch.io page, there also seems to be some sort of weird green structure that you can also come across later that kind of resembles a cactus, although I have no idea when we're going to get formally introduced to that. I also recall seeing water in some of the in-game screenshots, and it seems to me like we're about to get introduced to that, actually. There's a little, like, puddle of water right here, and I'm kind of curious as to how exactly my ball's gonna behave here. From what I can gather, it seems like it does take a while before the game starts showing off all of its, like, the entirety of its features, I guess? Because we're already up to hole number 127, and this is actually the first time that I'm ever seeing water in this game. So it seems like the game takes its sweet time introducing the entirety of its mechanics to you. Also, wait, did that... Hang on a second. Also, that's a hole-in-one, definitely. I was able to get some of those in desert golfing, but wait a second. Can I actually knock down some of these structures? Because it almost looked like this thing moved when I hit it. Oh, by the way, as far as my knowledge goes, desert golfing did not have any water in it at all, so I believe this is a brand new feature. And I'm kind of glad we were able to come across this, though, because I haven't actually experimented with this at all. Oh my god, you can actually knock them over. I was not aware you could do that. Oh my god, okay, wait a second. Wait a second, then you don't need to clear them. You don't need to clear them, they're physics-based. Use them as a boat. Okay, well, great. That was totally totally put that to good use. Oh god, please tell me I didn't, like, get stuck here. Hang on. There we are. Okay, so, it does seem like I can go in the water. Okay, it just slows down my ball by a lot. But it doesn't seem like it causes me to get stuck at all. I don't know if, again, I don't know if that reset option just restarts me at the beginning of the hole or not, or if it just restarts the game altogether. Okay, hang on a second. There's actually some things I'm learning about this game that I was not aware of before. So those gray structures, they are physics-based and you can knock them over. So you don't have to clear them. They're not like, yeah, they're not like slabs of concrete, I guess, that your ball just ricochets off of. No, you can push them over. You can push them over. They're basically giant monolithic pushovers. Okay, good to know then. I guess while we're on the subject of desert golfing, this does give me the opportunity to correct a couple of mistakes that I made in the video that I did on desert golfing a couple of years ago. Because I mentioned before that I was not sure if desert golfing had a proper ending, but as it turns out, it does. Now, I'm assuming that in order to access desert golfing's ending, you have to do the exact same thing that you're doing here in Golf on Mars, which is get to the final hole, Which, if I'm not mistaken, I think desert golfing actually has the exact same amount of holes as Golf on Mars, over 25 billion of them. I was able to find a YouTube link showing off desert golfing's ending, but I haven't actually watched it yet. So I don't truly know what happens at the end of the game, but it does apparently have an ending. But as for desert golfing being procedurally generated, that's only half true. Because something that I learned about desert golfing a while after I finished playing it on the channel for the first time is that all of the game's levels are technically procedurally generated, but there is a bit of a catch to it though. So normally there is no way to restart the game in desert golfing because the game does not give you a restart option unlike Golf on Mars. However, if you were somehow able to restart the game normally, or I guess if you watched someone else play it as well, you would realize very quickly that every single player who plays desert golfing is actually playing the exact same set of levels. So I was able to complete about 46 levels in total in desert golfing. And my initial thought was that all of the holes were unique for everyone, because I thought that they were, like, actually random. They would be different for each individual person who plays the game. But as it turns out, this is not quite the case, because if I were to watch someone else playing the first 46 levels of desert golfing like I have, I would realize very quickly that they're actually playing the exact same set of levels that I played, so they would look exactly the same. So it is true that desert golfing's levels are randomly generated, just like Golf on Mars, all 25 billion of them. However, they're not truly random, because if you had another person playing the game alongside you, they would encounter the exact same holes that you did on your playthrough, so not technically random then. Golf on Mars, though, is apparently supposed to be different, because this time around, the procedural generation is truly procedural. No two players will encounter the exact same holes. And because of that, it's not possible to play alongside another person in this game. You will get a completely different set of holes every single time. So this game is not an exact carbon copy of desert golfing. Justin Smith added a lot of different mechanics into this game that differentiates it enough from desert golfing to be considered its own standalone thing. Like, for instance, there's an options menu, which, honestly, I don't understand why desert golfing didn't have in the first place. And also, the procedural generation has been tweaked slightly so that it tends to generate more smoothened out hills, like the ones you see right here. Of course, the color of the sand is completely different because this is meant to simulate what Mars looks like, and of course, Mars is known as the red planet for a reason, and the physics have also been made a little floatier in order to accommodate for the fact that Mars has much weaker gravity. Cause supposedly desert golfing was taking place on Earth, but I don't know. That landscape looked particularly alien to me as well, but then again, there are some landscapes on Earth that kind of look the same way too. I don't know, there are some locations on Earth that kind of look like foreign alien worlds. Not all of Earth's terrain is exactly what you would call normal. I mean, even Earth has a lot of, very strange things going on with its landscape, too. You know, not all of Earth's terrain is exactly what I would consider normal. I mean, even Earth has some very, peculiar things going on with its landscape that continues to stun and amaze us even to this day. And also, in some ways, I did choose to play this game today as an excuse to talk more about space again. Because you guys should know by now that my affinity for space is very strong. Honestly, any game I come across that just gives me an excuse to talk about space some more, even if the game itself doesn't necessarily pertain to space, I'll probably play it just so I can keep blabbering on about how much I love space, because honestly I do. By the way, this is an example of a hole that you can't actually see because it is off the screen, but it was not a particularly difficult one though. Like I said, due to the nature of the random generation here, the game's difficulty is all over the place. And honestly, I'm making it harder on myself here because I don't know how to play this game correctly. See, this kind of landscape right here looks a lot more akin to what desert golfing's terrain generally look like. All these, sharp, jagged edges right here that just kinda, they just kinda cut off abruptly. But not all of the landscapes in Golf on Mars look like that, and I mean, you saw before that a lot of them don't look like that. You had a lot of, very smoothened out sand dunes that we were just bouncing across earlier. This is not one of those cases, I guess, because I've never seen this hole before. Also, this is good, because I think I just... oh no. Okay, well, here's what I'll do. Go over here instead. Okay, wait, well, don't go that far out. And then, there, hit the ball all the way back over here. Because there is, there is, a cliffside over here. that I'm not going to try and go back up because there's literally no point. So hang on a second. There we go. Flat terrain, just hit it on in. Hit it on in. Also, just for the record, it's not possible to hit the ball again while it's still rolling. I just want to put that out of the way. Or get that out of the way, I should say. If you try to apply power to the ball while it's still rolling, this little power bar right here is just going to be grayed out. Also, I think you can rotate this power bar in order to apply spin to your ball. I think that's what that little circle spinning in the center right there is supposed to be. I think you can actually add some spin to your ball so that... Yeah, oh my god, I put a lot of spin on that, actually. I'm not entirely sure what the point of putting spin on your ball is, but I think when it lands, like, if you give it some backspin, once it lands on, like, a flat plane, it'll actually, propel it backwards, like the spin will do that. If I remember correctly, because it's been a while since I've played any golf game on my channel, like, even in my own time. Okay, I'm trying to do this, like, very cautiously here, because apparently that hole was actually inside a cave. Now I have to, like, roll out of the cave and, like, go across it or, like, go above it in order to get to the next hole, which is very odd, but again, this is all randomly generated, so not too surprised that we have holes here that look this bizarre. But other than that, guys, I don't really have too much more to say about Golf on Mars. I mean, it's basically the sequel to Desert Golfing. This is effectively Desert Golfing 2. I was very surprised when this game came out, though, because I wasn't aware that Justin Smith had created a sequel to Desert Golfing, so I'm at least glad I was able to play this again in some form, because, in all honesty, I have kind of been missing Desert Golfing. I don't know, Desert Golfing was one of those, like, very serene, relaxing kinds of games that you could just play for hours on end. It was surprisingly addictive. It was like one of those just one more round kinds of games, which is the kind of feeling that I don't typically get with golf games. Also, that was a trick shot and a half if I've ever seen it, holy crap. Yeah, that was a hole-in-one, baby. Oh yeah, by the way, there's also, like, bottomless pits that you have to avoid as well. I'm gonna try my best to avoid this one altogether. There we go, very nice indeed. That's not gonna be a hole-in-one, or is it? Oh, never mind, it's a hole-in-one, because I bounced off that hill. Okay, very nice indeed. 400 strokes exactly. I don't even know what in the world this is. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed Desert Golfing when I first played it on the channel. I mean, yeah, there were some criticisms that I had with it. For instance, why in the world is there no options menu? But the game was surprisingly relaxing, and honestly, if I went back to it now, like, I could see myself going back to Desert Golfing and playing it for hours on end, and trying to, get through as many holes as possible. I mean, one of the things that did intrigue me about Desert Golfing is the fact that it's supposedly endless, despite the fact that it's really not. And ever since I found out that there is actually an ending to Desert Golfing, I've always wondered what exactly the ending entails. I mean, I would very much rather try to get to that ending myself, on my own terms, or on my own accord, I guess. But I mean, trying to get through 25 billion levels, I mean, that would probably take me, like, literal years in order to get through. But I mean, if it was something more, like something more achievable, like maybe 10,000, because I feel like that would be achievable within, like, maybe at least a couple of months, then yeah, I could very much see myself trying to actually beat the game on my own terms and trying to see what the ending entails. Again, it was the mystery surrounding the game's ending that really intrigued me about Desert Golfing. And with Golf on Mars, it's honestly the exact same thing, and given the fact that this game has a lot more mechanics than Desert Golfing did, and the fact that it seemingly introduces these mechanics over time as you play the game, and the fact that there's over 25 billion holes apparently, it makes me wonder what exactly this game is hiding. Because for instance, what is that over there? Now there's like another like puddle of liquid over there, but it's all like dark and murky and like a puke green color. Like what exactly is that? I've actually haven't seen that in the game before. I'm not entirely sure what it is. Is it like toxic? Is it gonna cause my ball to dissolve or something? Like what exactly is that? Like I'm not kidding, what actually is this? I'm kinda scared to see. Oh no. Oh. It's like a bunker. Oh, okay, I get it. It's like a bunker, I guess, because you're trying to, yeah, you're trying to hit it out. Okay, this is just like deeper sand, I guess? I'm not entirely sure, but, okay, that was kind of bizarre. Apparently it's not a liquid, it's like a sand pit or something. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I actually very much enjoy playing games like this, I really do. I mean, these are the kind of games that I used to criticize a long time ago, because I always used to think that, oh, they were just like very, very shallow and ultimately meaningless experiences. But I mean, given how insane the world has become in the past few months, what with the whole COVID-19 pandemic and honestly, all the other craziness that's been happening in the world recently, I mean, you guys probably know about it by now. You know, like the Black Lives Matter movement, and the fact that a whole bunch of people in the entertainment industry are being accused of assaulting people again, and unsurprisingly, most of the people being accused are men. You know, we live in very unprecedented times, and honestly, I need an escape from all of it. I feel like because of just everything that's happening in the world right now, I feel like my mental health hasn't really been in the greatest state. But these kinds of more meditative, relaxing games like Golf on Mars, I feel like they help me a lot with that. Like, who cares if the experience is ultimately shallow? Like, the fact of the matter is, it's helping me cope with everything that's going on around me. Okay, I need this sort of escapism in my life right now. Because frankly, I can't deal with everything that's happening in the world. It's too much for me, okay? Too much for an autistic person like myself to bear. Why bother dealing with the unrelenting hellscape that is planet Earth when I could just go golfing on Mars for a little while? I'd rather just do that instead. So I really do hope that you guys understand why I've been starting to play games like this a lot more often on my channel, because I'm sorry, but I am starting to get a little bit tired of all the, like, heavily action-oriented games that have been coming out as of late. I feel like I'm starting to get very sick and tired of them. I really hope you guys understand, but it's just for my own sanity, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy playing ultra-violent FPS games from time to time, and as a matter of fact, there are still a couple of them that I want to show off on the channel sometime in the future. But right now, I just need a break from all that, because, yeah... I'm just kind of getting sick and tired of all the games that are coming out nowadays that are basically fetishizing violence. Looking at you, Last of Us Part 2. Not saying that you guys can't enjoy those games yourselves. Again, I never want to tell people what they should think. The best thing that I can do as an individual is just throw in my 2 cents, explain how I personally feel about the situation at hand, and hope that it starts some sort of conversation. Or I guess explain how I personally feel in the hopes that it could add to the conversation, you know what I mean? But at the moment right now, it's just too much for me to handle, which is why I escape to games like this. But don't worry though, I will eventually get back to playing more ultra-violent games on my channel in the future, because there are a few that I would like to show off to you guys fairly soon. They will be arriving eventually, just be patient for now. Also, I have no idea what this hole is, by the way. I've just kind of been staring at this hole for the past 2 minutes, and all I see is a giant cave system with water in it. But it doesn't seem like there's any actual reason for me to go down in there because the hole is not inside the cave. That is very bizarre indeed, so I'm just gonna, like, fly away now. Oh god, that's like a giant hill. Okay, wait, I might come back and I might end up getting a hole-in-one from this. Oh my goodness. Again, all of the freaking trick shots here. I guess the landscape is also kind of helping me out in a way. There's just a sharp spike sticking out of that sand dune right there. Yeah, I guess the game didn't completely abandon its desert golfing DNA. But, I mean, other than that, guys, I really don't have anything else to say about Golf on Mars here, and I also just I went into this really weird rant near the end about how much I don't like playing violent video games again, which I think I had a similar kind of discussion at the end of my Gris video, but yeah, I think it's pretty clear that my taste in games is definitely starting to change, and again, I don't know if that is because of the COVID-19 pandemic, or maybe I just don't like games with excessive amounts of violence in them anymore. Maybe they just turn me off completely. I mean, that would be okay too if that was the case. Again, I don't have anything against people who enjoy extremely violent games like Doom or Quake, but I don't know, I'm kind of starting to feel like maybe they're just not for me anymore? And that's completely fine. Anyway, guys, I do feel like I'm just starting to ramble on and on at this point. I think it would be good if we just ended the video here. I don't have anything more to say about Golf on Mars, and it's pointless to drag this video on for much longer than it has to be. So yeah, that's Golf on Mars. It's supposed to be the follow-up to Desert Golfing. It plays pretty similar to that game. There are a few differences here and there, though, like the terrain generation is a little bit different. You have much more smoother sand dunes that you're golfing across, at least sometimes. Of course, the gravity on Mars is a lot lower, so the ball is a little bit floatier as a result. There's an actual options menu where you can configure various settings now, because desert golfing didn't have that. And also some brand new mechanics like water, bunkers, and some weird monolithic gray structures that you can apparently knock over because they are physics-based. And clouds, of course, that you can also shoot your ball through and it leaves a little trail behind. Just some neat little mechanics that give the game a personality of its own, I guess you could say. A personality that desert golfing didn't really have. Overall, I would say that this is an improvement over desert golfing, so you did well again, Justin Smith. You did well on this one. Anyway, if you guys want to purchase this game, there's a bunch of links in the description if you want to purchase the game on PC or your mobile device, because like I said, this game was initially released on iOS and Android. And if you want to pick it up on PC, there is a Steam link in the description, and the game is also available on itch.io, much like desert golfing. And you guys already know what I'm gonna say next. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you in the next video I make. Later!